All right, this is our quick set on preparing you to present with authority. And to start, we're gonna play a Lewis Howell 7PK special. We're gonna play Who's on Job. So in a moment, we're gonna present you with two different artists on screen, and I want you to tell me which of these artists would you give the responsibility to tackle the issue that you're gonna see come up in just a moment. Who do you reckon would be able to open and run a community hub in an unused building in their area? Would you go with Tiny or Ray? Okay, now let's see, if you had to try and tackle homelessness in big cities, would you go with, this is gonna be an interesting one, would you go with IAMDDB or Ray Black? And finally, who could help us to improve the charging speeds of electric cars? Ghetts or Young T and Bugsey? See, now what we just did right there was a quick game that, yes, it got you warmed up for the session, but actually it was your first tip for being able to present with authority. And that was about being able to get early participation. Because you see, when your audience are able to engage with something immediately when you start a session, they're automatically brought in as you go about proceeding forwards. Right, now before we continue, I want you to remember the number 758, because this is gonna be super important for later in the session. Write it down because you're going to need it. What's going through your head right now? In fact, no, don't tell me. I know your head is spinning. You're just thinking to yourself, what's 758? Is that his door number? Is that his age? Is that his IQ? What just happened was another tip for presenting, which is what we call planting the seed for something that may come later. And you know what, just for fun, I'm gonna tell you, the reason I chose 758 is because I'm half St. Lucian. I came to represent one of my home islands, you get what I'm trying to say? So you have to just kind of be a bit patriotic and big it up sometimes. But anyway, enough of that. Powerfully presenting is much like crossing the road. You know, when we cross, we have to first of all assess, where is it actually safe for us to cross? Once we've found somewhere, then we're gonna pause, we're gonna look left and right, and once it's safe, then it's gonna be our turn to cross. And when presenting, it's exactly the same. First of all, you assess your audience. You think about, where are they at right now? What do they need? Then at the beginning of your presentation, you take that same moment to pause, asking your question of, like, what do you guys actually want to get out of this session? Then similar to how you had to look left and right, you'll compare what they've shared with you with what you had prepared. Then once you've got those, then you're in a position where you can say to them, are you guys ready to go? And you make a start. See how I use crossing the road as an analogy there? That's an example of how we can use everyday situations and scenarios to land key learning points with our audience. This is a powerful technique when we're trying to convey information that can be very complex. But now, in this session, we've covered the three most important things to consider when presenting. We looked at, first and foremost, early participation. Then we looked at planting the seed, and now we've just done using everyday situations and scenarios. You missed it. I just gave you another gem there. That was what we call the power of three. By sharing those tips with you in a bundle of three, it became easy for you to be able to remember different references that you can now engage with. You should try doing the same thing when you're presenting. Thanks for joining this quick set. My final few tips would be, first and foremost, think about your body language. Plant yourself in what we call a power stance, where you've got your feet about shoulder width apart, you have your shoulders rolled back slightly to give yourself that space, and then think about a resting point for your hands. Notice for me, I like to place them just in front of my stomach and torso area. But you can also use your hands to present, use it to convey where different things may need to land. Then also, I want you to think about your tone of voice. When you're speaking, give it that little bit of exaggeration. Imagine you actually recording an audio book. That's gonna really help people to be brought into what it is that you're delivering. Now finally, don't be afraid of what can go wrong. Start to be excited about what can go right. Thanks a lot for joining me for this particular quick set. I'm Lewis, and I'll see you in the next one.